Hey guys, this is John, and today I'm analyzing the Vancura position, another essential rook plus pawn versus rook endgame. I've created a repertoire on Chessable with all of these positions. It's a free repertoire, you can go on there and practice them if you like. So last time we discussed the importance of safe squares, and I was describing how in this position with the black pawn on a2, white draws in fairly straightforward fashion if they keep their king on either g2 or h2, the safe squares, and keep their rook poised behind the pawn. And the only thing white really has to remember is that if the black king gets up to a position where it's helping to defend the pawn in order to free the black rook, white will resort to checks. The question does come up, however, what if this black pawn is further back? So what if the pawn is further away from the promotion square? Is it still an easy draw for white? Does black have winning chances? Logically, you would think with the pawn further away from becoming a queen, white would draw easier. But that is actually not the case, and you have to know the Vancura position in order to confidently hold this one. So the problem with white's traditional defense, or the defense that you would use if the pawn were on a2, is that with the pawn on a3, the black king can actually seek shelter on a2. So if the black king were to get all the way up here and white were to deliver this check, it can hide on a2. And then black has this plan of moving their rook, so playing like rook b1, and then eventually escorting this pawn up the board. White could not stand a rook trade, so they'd have to do something like this. Black would move over, white might give another check, black would go here, white would probably come back here, here, and slowly black is escorting this pawn to promotion. Like next they're probably going to play rook b2, followed by king b1, and promote that pawn. So it should be clear that white can't rely on the same defense that we used in that safe square video, where the rook is just staying behind the pawn. So what is white to do here? Well, white has to play proactively. And what white should do is play rook f8 check. And now if the black king starts marching toward the pawn, we're going to play rook f3. So aligning the rook with the pawn on the third rank. And this is a clever defense found by Joseph Vancura. In the 1920s, I believe he analyzed this position. And the idea is that you're waiting for the pawn to advance. So if this pawn were to come up to a2, now we're going to swing the rook back over to the a file, and we've achieved this safe square draw. We're not involving our king at all. Even in the Vancura position, the king is staying put here. But we're using the rook both vertically and laterally to draw this position. So you're waiting along the third rank for this pawn to advance, and then you're going to come over. Now, if black continues playing with their king, so let's say king here, we have waiting moves with the rook. So let's say rook b3. Let's say black marches over, king d4. We can go back to this f3 square, king here. Now, if left unchecked, black will play king b4, followed by a2 then. And in this case, black will win because we won't have access to a3. So, should the king get far away from the white rook, now you start checking them from the side. So, rook f4 check is correct here. And it turns out that by checking along the file, the black king has no shelter in this case, even if it runs towards the pawn. So king b3, rook f3 check, king b2, black is just itching to move this rook and push the pawn, but these checks from the side prevent the king from ever reaching shelter. Let's say king here, check again, king here, check. You can just see there's nowhere for the black king to go. And black will probably start running the king back towards the rook, but here again we can make a waiting move if we like. So rook over to b3, we've set up a wall along the third rank, stopping the black king from coming through. And again, if ever a2 is played, rook over here, we still have our king occupying one of the safe squares, so the black rook cannot free itself. So this is how you draw using the Vancura method. And it works even if the pawn is further back. We're looking at the extreme case with the pawn on a3, but you have to transfer your rook to the side and hold the pawn laterally, and only go to the vertical defense, the safe square draw, if that pawn is pushed. The only tricky thing is monitoring where the enemy king goes and making sure you can check them from the side. You don't want to allow them this position, where if it were black to move, black would play a2. Now black would win because suddenly you can't play this move. So I hope you enjoyed this discussion of the Vancura position. There are some exceptions I want to note. As with a lot of positions in chess, it's hard to create ironclad rules, but unless the enemy king is very close, then the Vancura position is a draw. And you're not involving your king in the defense. That's very important. You're just using the rook to maximum effect and holding the pawn laterally and only when it advances do you go behind. Anyways, let me know if you have any questions about this method, and once again, you can check out this free repertoire on Chessable if you want to practice this position for yourself. All right, bye guys.